Hello, my name's Mark Helm, and I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Self-Storage Quick Start Academy. I help people who are getting in the self-storage business, and I support people who want to grow their self-storage business, strategically do so in a way that creates true wealth and a fulfilling career. And we are in a series talking about what true wealth really is. You know, I work with a lot of folks and help them design their business strategy for their self-storage business. And that's all well and good, and you have to have a great business strategy in order to succeed. You have to know where you're going, why you're going for it, and without it, it's going to be very hard to succeed in the self-storage business. However, what I've seen that makes the real difference, the difference between people who are successful, the people who are not successful in implementing their plan, is people who have a powerful relationship to success and a powerful relationship to money and creating wealth. In our society, people have a very weird relationship to money. All I have to do is ask you, how much money do you make? And immediately, that feels strange, that feels weird, that feels different, doesn't it? Well, I hope you found those questions from last week very, very interesting. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, stop this particular video, stop reading this article right now, go back, read last week's episode or watch last week's video, and then answer the questions that are attached. Those questions are very enlightening. Unless you've done this work before, what you probably found out is you have some internal conflicts around your relationship to money. You know, the questions were interesting. I hope they were somewhat enlightening. But the thing is, together, all those questions are designed to begin to show you a pattern, show you what your belief system is and what your underlying thoughts are about money and your relationship to money and your relationship to wealth. And what we found is most people have, at the very least, internal conflicting conversations, and most people have some very disempowering internal conversations and belief systems about money. The challenge is most of these are not fully distinguished by people. They're like in the background running the show. The beauty of being an entrepreneur is, as an entrepreneur, by definition, you have to live a self-examined life. And my suggestion is the first place to start doing this self-examination is around your relationship to money and around your relationship to success. And as entrepreneurs, the first thing we've got to get over is our parents' relationship to money. So did you find that question very interesting? You know, I don't know about you guys, but my parents never talked much about money. My father grew up during the Depression. He never talked directly about money or what money is or what money means to him. But what I got from my father, just watching him and observing how he lived his life, is that money's hard to get, that you've got to work very hard for it, and that nothing is guaranteed. If you've got any wealth or any money, you better hold it, you better protect it, you better be very, very careful with it, because odds are it's going to disappear. And if you go back in the Helm family history, there are a lot of Helms that accumulated a lot of money and then lost a lot of money. Many Helms died broke. Not my father, but many did. And that was the message I got growing up as a kid about money. What was yours? And what's very interesting is, what are you demonstrating to your kids or to your grandkids about money and what money is? Now, the next big hurdle to overcome is society's and or religions' conversations about money. Now, I know I'm on really thin ice right here, especially when I'm talking about religion. However, I'm going to talk about myself. let me talk about what I heard growing up in church. Not necessarily what was said, but what I heard growing up in church. What I heard is that it's not good to strive for wealth. What I heard is bad people spend their time and energy going for wealth. Good people are more concerned about other things. I heard that there's virtue in being poor, and there's not virtue in having a lot of wealth. Now, I'm not saying that's what they said, I'm saying that's what I heard. And then I would look around and I would see successful people and I would see rich people, and I would wonder as a kid, are they good people or are they bad people? And then I would try to cue off my parents or cue off other adults present to try to get an answer to this. I never got one. I just figured as a kid that when I got older I'd be able to figure all this out. But that was always there for me. What good people do and what bad people do. That was a legacy conversation. What I've learned since then is that that's not a personal conversation that I heard or even a personal conversation that I have with myself. We're born into this conversation. In this time, in this society, these are the conversations we're born into. Everyone struggles to some degree with them. Everyone works out their own internal story about it. Most people are not present to or know what their full distinguished internal story is. That's what this work is to do. Distinguish that. Determine what is your relationship to accumulating a lot of wealth and accumulating money. You can learn these answers by answering the questions from last week. Now, the goal here is not to change you, it's not to indoctrinate you, it's not to tell you what is true about money and what isn't true about money. The goal here is to distinguish what your internal conversation is and what your relationship to money is. Now, if you're like most of us, your relationship and these internal conversations and belief systems are not fully flushed out. You're not 100% present or aware of what they are. And what happens is, until you distinguish them and know what they are, 100% of what they are, good or bad, as long as they're running in the background, it's like a computer operating system running in the background. Then you decide to go into self-storage business. You create a business strategy. You start executing a business strategy. But all of the work, everything you're doing is filtered through an undistinguished background running operating system that filters through your internal belief system and internal conversation about success and about money. And if these are not empowering conversations, or if they're conflicting conversations, as your actions and your thoughts and what you're doing to create your self-storage business gets filtered through them, what gets out pictured is often something very less than what we strive to achieve. So the goal here is to distinguish what is your current relationship and conversation about money. Because once you distinguish it, now you have power over it. If it serves you, that's great. And as you filter your actions and your business strategy and your self-storage business and everything you're doing through an empowering belief system and conversation, it magnifies and outpictures quickly what you're up to in life. If it's a conflicting, internal, disempowering conversation about money, and part of you says money's bad and bad people have money, and part of you say it's okay, but don't put a lot of energy on it, then what comes out is often less than optimal, to say the least. Now, if you're here waiting for me to tell you what is the truth about money and what is the right conversation to have, I think you're going to be very disappointed. The truth is, I don't know what money is. I have my own thoughts and beliefs about it, and we'll talk about that in upcoming episodes. But the reality is, I don't know. I don't have the truth. But here's the other reality. I don't care. I'm not interested in what is the truth. What I'm interested in is what empowers me, what supports me for the game that I'm up to in creating a self-storage business. You know, human beings are the only animals that I know of that live in language. Now, there's probably other creatures out in this vast universe in some other place or in some other time that also live in language. We just haven't met them yet, but we live in language. Language is the water that we swim in as human beings. Most all of our thoughts are in the form of language. Now, language can generate feelings and emotions through chemical reactions in the brains, but our reality and how the world occurs to us and our belief systems all occur to us in language. Now, most of us have a really weak relationship to language. We think language is something we use to describe what's out there. So, example, I walked up to the water cooler. They were talking. As soon as I walked up, they looked at me and they stopped talking and walked away. I know they were talking about me. I know they don't like me. Now, what really happened was someone walked up to a water cooler and two people stopped talking, and they may or may not have looked at that person. But for the person who created that conversation, the reality for that person is they don't like him, and whenever they come up, people are going to stop talking and go away. And they live into that reality. And then they look into the world and they find reinforcement for that belief system. And pretty soon, that's just the way it is. It does not occur to that person that that's an internal conversation. It may be valid, may not be valid, but it's just an internal conversation, and it's just a story that that person made up. It doesn't occur like that. It occurs like, this is what's so, this is reality. My conversation about it is not that I'm creating it. My conversation is I'm describing what's so. That's not the case. It's just the story. We all make stories up. That's what human beings do. And we try to add meaning to our lives through the stories that we create and the conversations and the belief systems that we create. You have done that with money. And you did that at a very early age with money. And you did that at a very early age with your relationship to success. Are you present to what that is? Are you beginning to see how this works? What I'm interested in, and what I suggest you get interested in, is not what's so, not what's true, but what empowers you. What is an internal conversation that you could create for yourself about money and about success that would support you in succeeding in the game of self-storage? That's what this work is about. To create a foundation and a belief system and a worldview so that any activities you do to forge your self-storage business and create true wealth, true abundance, which we'll talk about, is filtered through and not hampered by a disempowering belief system. Now, there's one more step I think that would be very important before we start creating what is an empowering belief system for you. What could you create that would support you in creating the self-storage vision and business that you're up to? And here's what I mean. What I've discovered the hard way, believe me, is that you cannot create a new empowering conversation on top of an undistinguished story or conversation you have about yourself. So this week, one more set of questions. These are short questions. It could take you 5 minutes. It could take you 10 hours. It's up to you. But there's just a few questions. Click here to download these questions. And what you're going to do is fully flush out and distinguish your story about you and money, and about you and success. And I think you may be a little bit surprised some of the twists this takes. But the game here is not to judge it, That's the only rule. Don't make whatever you think good or bad. Don't try to sugarcoat it. Don't try to make it sound nice. No one's going to read this but you. Don't make it sound really nice. In fact, the rawer and the more real you can make it, the bigger the opportunity for a breakthrough in this area for you. Be totally real, be totally transparent with yourself, write down, answer the questions, and flush out, fully distinguish what's your story about yourself in relationship to money and success. These questions will lead you gently and make it very easy for you to do this. Answer those questions, then come back next week and we're going to do the work of completing that story, and we're going to do the work of creating whatever you want to create as a powerful internal conversation about your relationship to money and your relationship to success. It's not hard work, but it's not easy work either. We'll do it together. That's my commitment with you. Then as you execute your strategies for self-storage and success in your life, you're optimizing your chances of success in this fantastic business of self-storage. So thank you very much for doing this work. My name is Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Storage World Analyzer. The Storage World Analyzer, right now we're beta testing version 2 of it, where we're upgrading the program, adding some enhancements to it. If you're already a member, you automatically get all those upgrades and enhancements. If you'd like to find more out about a financial analysis software program that's designed specifically for self-storage and can support you in determining what you can pay and what your cash flows are going to be, go to storageworldanalyzer.com or creatingwealththroughselfstorage.com. Please share this episode if you think it will help somebody, anybody, and thank you very much. I look forward to being with you next week.